Hello and welcome to another Tabletop Ramblings Middle-earth strategy battle game battle reports. Saruman has got a little bit too big for his boots and is vying for power against Mordor. Lurtz and his band are claiming too much glory, and Sauron has sent the Shadow Lord to remind them of who is in charge. This battle is a 400-point game. There's a 400-point tournament coming up in the next couple of months, so I'm just running a couple of potential lists against each other to see what will happen, just to get a feel for the lists. There's quite a few 400-point games coming up. Any of these lists, or none of them, may or may not do well enough to be considered. It's not a points level I've ever done competitively before, so there's a lot of practice and tweaking going on. So with that said, of course, if you have any list building experience at this points level, do pop it in the comments below. Do offer any insights into the list if you think they work, if they don't, and especially why. Do comment, and I'll take all of that on board. And as well, while you're commenting, if you could like the video, that will really help the video to rank well and to grow the hobby. And as well, if you're new around here, please do subscribe and do hit that bell button so that you're notified of all of the future releases. The Mordor list today is very simple. It's the Shadow Lord, who is the leader, leading 4 Black Númenóreans, 4 Morannon spears with shield, and 1 Morannon with a shield. And they have all got the channel supporting shields there. They're going to rep the cause and probably get obliterated. And then they are all backed up by a great beast of Gorgoth. And that is 400 points of Mordor. The Isengard list is again quite simple. We have Lurtz on the right hand side there, and he has 3 shieldmen, 3 with pike, 2 with crossbow, 2 of the Uruk scouts with bow, and a warg rider with shield. And then an identical warband led by Ugluk over there. The only difference being that he has just 1 scout with a bow. And that is 400 points of Urukai. And that's just the standard Isengard. As this game is evil versus evil, we'll have to choose who is the most evil, and we'll say that Mordor are going to be evil as they have a ring wraith who is more evil than Lurtz. So the forces of evil then will be Mordor with the red dice, and then good will be Isengard with the green. This is the board for today's battle. It's quite open, and it's just the burnt out remnants of a village. In the centre, there's a fallen Rohirrim as an objective marker. And that's because today's scenario is seize the prize. Somewhere hidden on that fallen Rohirrim is some important information that both sides need. At the end of a model's move, if they end in base contact with that objective marker, they'll attempt to retrieve what they need from that corpse. And they'll roll a dice, and on a 4+, they successfully take what they need, but on a 1, 2, or 3, they're unable to. The victory points are heavily weighted around being able to claim that objective, with 3 if you have the dug up, or the rooted 4 in this case, objective in your possession at the end of the game. 5 if you have it in your possession and in the enemy's half. And 7 if you're able to take the objective and get it off the enemy's board edge. There's also 1 victory point for wounding the enemy leader and 2 for killing them. And there's 1 victory point for breaking the enemy and 3 for breaking them and being unbroken yourself. As always, the victory points are calculated once the game ends, and the game ends at the end of a turn in which one force is reduced to 25%. Both forces deploy 24 inches away from each other, 12 inches from the centre, and as you can see, both forces are already deployed. So with that, we can get straight into turn 1 priority. And it goes to Mordor. End of the movement phase for turn 1, and Mordor have advanced, keeping everything within 6 inches of the Shadow Lord for his Pall of Darkness to help keep them safe from bow fire. The infantry have moved up. They're not quite heading as quickly as they can to the centre. They were blocked off by that abandoned blacksmiths. For the Uruks move, they have advanced on the wings and keeping the centre still where they have their crossbows and bows. They're going to unleash a volley in the shoot phase, which will either get lucky and do some wounds, or at the very least will drain a point of will off the Shadow Lord, forcing him to cast the Pall of Darkness. So we go into the shoot phase, and before the crossbowmen and bow scouts can fire, it is Evil's priority. So the orc archers in the howdah will shoot into the crossbowmen. And at the start of this phase, Pall of Darkness has been cast by the Shadow Lord. That's his special rule that takes 1 point of will, but means anything within 6 inches of him can only be hit by ranged attacks on a 6. So the orc bowmen in the howdah, there are 6 shots that can hit the crossbowmen, and there's 1 from a chap right at the back that can just hit the guy right on the end, and he'll be the bigger dice. We'll just roll them all together. They hit on 5s. Oh, not bad. That one, oh, that's pretty much flat. So 3 hits there, all on the crossbowmen. Then the crossbowmen are defense 5, so it's 6s to wound. Let's see if any of these can wound. Oh, and there is first blood to Mordor. They take out a crossbowman. That is a good start there for the plucky bowman atop the great beast of Gorgoth. The Uruks are now going to return fire in their movement phase. They're going to ignore the great beast and they're going to shoot at the Shadow Lord, who, for getting the best out of his aura, has had to put himself in the front line. So the 3 crossbowmen are going to fire first, hitting on 6s. No hits there. There would have been 1. Pall of Darkness has paid off. Then the bowmen are actually just out of range of the Shadow Lord. A happy accident. But they are in range of the Great Beast. So they're going to fire on the Great Beast. 1 gets through the dark shadows, but it will wound on a 6. No wounds there on a 2. So that is the end of the shoot phase. It's also the end of the turn. So we'll go into turn 2 priority. And again, it goes to Evil. Nearly the end of Evil's move. But we're just coming in because the Shadow Lord is going to cast a 1 dice transfix on Lurtz. Lurtz only has 1 will, so he'll either be able to transfix him or he'll make him waste that will. It goes off on the 2, the absolute bare minimum, and Lurtz, to keep his will for a more important time, is forced to just accept that, and he is now transfixed. That then concludes Evil's move once he has just shuffled up, and we'll come back after Isengard's move. This is the board at the end of turn 2 movement. We've already seen that the Shadow Lord has advanced and transfixed Lurtz, and the Great Beast moved up. He has a fairly difficult to control rule where he has to move his full 8 inches and will trample over everything. But he can stop if he comes into contact with a friendly model. So he has been able to position himself just where he is by coming into contact with a friendly model. In the Isengard move, they've again kept all their range units still to hopefully get some lucky hits, but also to drain off will from the Shadow Lord, rather, not the Witch King. Then Lurtz's band have advanced. They'll be able to charge next turn if they get priority. And importantly, because Lurtz couldn't move, he is in charge range of the Great Beast. So he's had 4 warriors come up to screen him off in case they lose the heroic move. It's unlikely the beast will be able to trample down 4 Uruk warriors. Then here, Ugluk's band have just advanced again to try and get the jump on the beast and stop it from trampling. So that is the end of the movement phase, and we'll go into shooting. Might be a bit difficult to see on camera, but these two here have clear shots onto these chaps here. We'll go for this one because then there's no in the way for the fence, but they both miss. They hit on 5s. They have a stable battle platform of the Howdah, so even though the beast has moved, they still hit on 5s. Then these 3 are going to shoot at Ugluk. Oh, 1 hits. What's that one with the glare? That's a 2, so at least 1 has hit. Then it's going to be 6s to wound. No, just a 1. So that's not great. We then come across and we have 1, 2, 3 who are just going to be shooting into these chaps at the front. There's a hit. If it can be another 6, it will be a wound. It's a 4. Not enough there. And that then is all of the shots. He's just fallen over. Stick him up. So that is all of the evil shots. And we'll come back with Isengard's shooting. Forgot to mention on camera, the Pall of Darkness has been activated by the Shadow Lord. He's already marked off the will. We just didn't mention anything on camera. Despite that, these 3 crossbowmen are going to fire into the Great Beast. Hitting on 6s. No hits. Then the 3 bowmen, they are in range this time. But again, no hits. There would have been a good few there. A good couple of 5s and 4s. But Pall of Darkness has stopped any from hitting. That's the end of the shoot phase. And now it's a very important priority roll for turn 3. It goes on a draw. It goes to Isengard. Start of the move, and with Isengard priority, the Great Beast's commander is calling a heroic move. It will only affect him in the Howdah, but he wants to get the trample off. So Ugluk is going to spend 1 of his points of might to counter. Gives us a roll off. So on a 1, 2 or 3, it goes to evil, which is Mordor. Or on a 4, 5 or 6, it goes to good, which is Isengard for this battle. So 1, 2 or 3, it's Mordor. 4+, it's Isengard. But on a 2, it is evil and the Great Beast of Gorgoth moving first. So with the Great Beast moving first, he's going to pivot and he's going to charge into these Uruks. He's going to hit that chap first. The reason he's gone for them instead of Lurtz is that he doesn't want to be wildly out of position and get annihilated, and he also wants to keep quite close to that objective. He is in fact currently blocking it from anyone claiming it. So he does impact hits. He hits that shieldman. He's strength 6, defense 6, so he needs 4s. And there he has crushed that first Urukai. So that Urukai is killed, and he keeps going. He hits the Berserker first. They've all got a little bit moved, but it was going to be the Berserker first. Hitting and killing him on 4s. Ooh, that is a 6. The Berserker does have a save. He's got his Feel No Pain. On a 6, he saves it. But it's a 3. The Berserker is dead. And then the next one that he would have hit is this chap here that he's already in base contact with. So again, 4s. And he kills him. Now he's on to the pikeman. This has been a good charge from the Great Beast. He's hit the pikeman. Oh, but on 3s, it is not enough, and the Great Beast stays where it is. So after the Great Beast's brutal, heroic move there, it's now Ugluk's heroic move. And then into Isengard's standard movement. We're jumping in at the end of a very timid Isengard movement because of Ugluk's massive failure of only rolling a 5 on his courage test. He is courage 4, but he's within 12 of the Shadow Lord, who, as he's a wraith, reduces his courage by 1. So he'd have to use his will and a might, or both of his might, to be able to charge the beast, and it's just not worth spending it to charge into the 4 wound defense 7 beast. So he has stood where he is, which has meant he's quite exposed to the Shadow Lord, and rather than risking it, the forces of Isengard have just consolidated. All the bowmen and crossbowmen have come up, and Lurtz and his band have come across, unwilling to risk only being able to charge half of that front line due to the courage tests needed to charge the terrifying Black Numenorians. And also Lurtz was out of charge range because he was transfixed last turn and unable to advance. Lurtz also wants to make sure that if something does happen to Ugluk, then he'll be able to pounce on the Shadow Lord and make him pay. So that is why the Isengard forces have moved as they have. They've been quite timid. Maybe they should have been more aggressive, but they would have opened themselves up to some nasty counter charges because it is Mordor's priority now. And the reason we've jumped in is because Mordor are going to attempt to pick up the objective. This will greatly determine what they do in their move phase. So this chap here is going to move onto the objective, and he's going to try and pick it up, but he needs a 4+. And it's a 5! So the very first attempt, he has picked up the objective, and that has now greatly influenced how Mordor are going to play this. We'll come back after we've had a bit of a think. So the Shadow Lord has had a think, and the objectives markers there have been put on to that Black Numenorian. And the Shadow Lord has decided that he is going to command, or compel, this Ugluk there to move. He'll be able to do a half move, and the Shadow Lord will be able to charge him. So, does it go off? Absolutely not. Not on a 1 and a 2. That is a failed move there. So instead, the Shadow Lord is going to go with his backup plan, and he's just going to fly over and charge into this Uruk here. He's going to do it in such a way that, if possible, he can go through this line with a hurl. But we'll come back and check exactly where he needs to be, but that's roughly where he'll be as we're doing it on camera. And we'll come back after the rest of the Mordor move. End of the move. This is how the table is looking. We only need this close-up view as the action is all in this one small spot. The lines here vying for position as Mordor there with the objective of being able to just pull back and form a shield wall to stop Lurtz from being able to get round and onto the objective. The Shadow Lord, who we said might be able to line up a hurl, he couldn't really do it. He probably could if he was able to hurl over the base, which I think he possibly can, but not being too sure on the rules, we're just going to leave him where he is. If you know whether you can hurt, if the base of the Great Beast would be enough to make him stop and just hit the beast or not, do comment below. So that is how everything is looking. There's going to be some shooting from the Howdah. So we'll come back after we've done... after we've gathered the dice anyway. We'll do that shooting now. So shooting. The 3 orcs there right at the front are going to shoot at this exposed Wargrider. He failed his courage test to charge the Great Beast. That's why he's out in the open. So hitting on 5s. Ooh, that's nice. 3 hits. So 1, 2 or 3 it's the warg, 4 plus it's the rider. So 1 on the warg, 2 on the rider. So does the warg die? No. But does the rider 6 plus? Oh, so close. He doesn't go down there. The shield keeps him alive. The next couple of shots, we've got 1, 2, 3 shots there. And they are just going to go into these Uruks here. 1 hits. But a 1 that does nothing. And then that, I believe, is all of the shots for Mordor. And then Isengard, who did have priority to shoot first, but have no shots, as they have all moved full, trying to get up and towards the battle lines. With that then, we go into the combat phase. We'll start off with the Shadow Lord against a shielding Urukai. Shadow Lord has 3 attacks on the charge. Oh, well, that is... We'll say it was cocked. It won't make a difference yet. There we go. So that is a loss for the Shadow Lord. That is a big waste of will there. He backs away and the Urukai lives to fight another day. And then the only other fight is those 3 pikemen against the Great Beast. The pikemen do have even fight value with the Beast. So with 3 attacks apiece, it's anyone's game. Oh dear. Yeah, that's a 2. Sorry about the glare there. Too high for the Uruks. Only a 4 high for the Beast, but it is enough. The Beast can't do any monstrous strikes like hurl or anything like that. So he's just going to put his 3 strength 6 attacks into that Uruk warrior. And then if by some miracle he doesn't kill him, he'll get to re-roll them all because the Uruk is thrown to the ground because of his monstrous charge. Or at least a version of that. That was 6 and 2, 5. So he's absolutely annihilated him. The pikeman will back away. And that is the end of the combat phase. This is the board at the end of turn 3. It's been quite brutal so far for Isengard. They've lost crossbowmen, a couple of shieldmen, a pikeman and a berserker, all to nothing. No Mordor deaths so far. They do still definitely have the numbers advantage, but Mordor have the objective. All to play for as we go into priority turn 4. And again it goes to Isengard. After some consideration, with Isengard priority for turn 4, the Beastmaster atop the Great Beast is not going to call a heroic move. He doesn't want to move himself out of position because he's currently using his massive War Beast's body there to block off the route to his objective carrying comrade. This may or may not be the right call, but this is what he has elected to do. End of Isengard's movement, and I was going to put the dice to show the exact courage rolls of all of these fails, but I didn't even have enough green dice to do it, so I've just marked off all of the ones that failed. This Uruk failed to charge the Witch King, then this chap failed as well, the Warg Rider failed to charge the Beast, these 2 bowmen failed, there were a lot of bad rolls, and a lot that were nice and close, but the -1 from the Witch King is, the Shadow Lord rather, is an absolute pain for passing courage tests. The reason we've jumped in at the start of Mordor's move is the Shadow Lord is going to move and he's going to cast some spells. He would have liked to try and do something down here, getting the jump on Ugluk, but the positioning of Lurtz means that Lurtz is quite safe, but he can heroic combat off and jump in and try and get onto the Shadow Lord if the Shadow Lord was foolish enough to risk putting himself in somewhere nasty like this. So with that in mind, the Shadow Lord is going to attempt some shenanigans over here, but first he wants to make sure that Lurtz is transfixed. So he's just going to roll 1 dice because he's starting to run out of will. He's used 6 so far and he's only got 14, and he goes off on a 2. So Lurtz can easily resist that, but he only has 1 point of will. So Lurtz instead is going to allow himself to be transfixed, because Lurtz himself, oh, he is quite safe, but that would set up a nasty barge. That is the big difficulty there with only having 1 point of will. We're going to come back after Lurtz has had a think. So Lurtz is going to resist that roll, and he's going to hope he gets the 6. So does he resist? Oh, he resists it easily, but on the 6, a natural 6 anyway, he would have got the will back for free. So that's Lurtz has resisted the spell, but he is now out of will. So we'll come back after the Shadow Lord has moved and the rest of the force of Mordor has done their movement. End of the movement phase, and this is how the board is looking. The only things we've not seen then is the Shadow Lord, who's come across ready to get a hurl, and then the 2 orcs were going to charge in here, but were unable to because of this pikeman's control zone. He's just supporting, he's not engaged, so no one can go within an inch, which actually stops anyone from charging these 2. The Shadow Lord obviously could do it because he was entering this guy's control zone, and this doesn't quite reach around. That oversight there meant that these 2 were unable to engage. They'd have been able to if they'd gone in first, but too eager there to do the Shadow Lord's magic meant that the orcs then had to just retreat off with the objective. Not the end of the world, but not what was originally intended there. That is a lesson to think before you do magic. That's my greatest weakness with magic. I always get too excited. Same with moving big hitting heroes, especially the Great Beast. So that is all of the movement. There is shooting. We'll come back once we've worked out who's going to shoot and gathered up some dice. So Isengard priority. These 2 bowmen and the crossbowmen were unable to charge. They were terrified. So that means they have stood still. So they're hitting on 4s, and they're just going to fire into the howdah on some orcs. The small amount of shooting isn't worth a will point from the Shadow Lord, so they will be hitting on 4s now, because the Pall of Darkness is not active. Oh, 2 hits. Didn't say, but obviously the 1 dice is for the 1 crossbowman and the 2 are for the 2 bowmen. So it's the 2 bowmen that have hit. Do they hit the howdah? 1 to 5, it's the 1 to 4, sorry, it's the howdah. Oh, they both hit the howdah. That is defense 8, I believe. We'll roll to see if we wound. It'll be 6. Nah, definitely not there on 1. So that's no successful shooting from Isengard. Returning fire, the orcs in the howdah. These 3 are going to shoot onto this chap here. Just 1 hit. Ooh, a 4. It's not quite enough. On those defense 4 orcs, it's a 5 to wound. We then have these 2, who again are going to go for one of the low defense archers. 1 hits. No wound there. And then we've got these 2 and this chap onto the Warg Rider. 1 hits. Does it hit the Warg or the Rider? It hits the Rider. Big 6 to kill him. No. Ineffectual shooting here from the orcs. And then the orc here is going to just take a pot shot at that Uruk there. He does hit. Hits him on a 5. Can he get a 6? Oh, so close. Buries itself into his shield and doesn't kill the Uruk there. That is the end of the shooting. So we'll come back into the combat phase. Start the combat phase, and the Shadow Lord is going to call a heroic combat. He wants his hurl to go off and clip down this line. Lurtz is going to call a heroic move of his own, because the way this has been positioned is it will just clip Lurtz if it's long enough. And he also, as much as he wants to avoid that, he also wants to be cutting through to get on towards the objective carrier up there. So they are the 2 heroic moves. We'll roll off. 1, 2, 3, it's evil. And the Shadow Lord, 4+, it's Lurtz. Oh, that was going to be a 6. But it is a 3. So the Shadow Lord is going first. The Shadow Lord has 3 attacks. He is on the charge against a shielding Uruk, who's going to have 2. Ooh, is that 6 cocked? Quite hard to tell, isn't it? I think the test is whether you can balance a dice on it. No, you can't. So it is cocked. It's just a 2. So it goes to the Shadow Lord, and he is going to be hurling him down the line. How far does he hurl him? It's a D3, so that 6 is 3 inches plus the strength differential. The difference is 2, so he's going to be going 5 inches. That is a good long hurl there, and we'll measure that out. So that hurl is brutal. It's going to pass through these 3 pikemen, clip Lurtz, and then onto this chap here before he finally stops. That is going to be a nasty, nasty hurl. So we'll roll his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strength 3 hits, and then he also takes a bigger strength 6, 5 hit. We'll see if it wounds. Oh yeah, he's super dead. So he is dead. Oh dear. Premonition about him. He takes his strength 3 hit. Does it kill him? 5+ for the pikeman. No, so he is just prone. We'll come back and put prone markers on them afterwards. The next chap, cocked, a 5, he's dead. The next chap, he is not dead, he's just knocked prone. But we'll just stand him up for a second, put a prone marker on him, lying him down. We'll just move exactly where he is, and that's could be important, no spoilers. And then this chap here, he also dies. And he was in combat with the Beast, which is obviously a very high strength. So I'll actually have to look up how that works, because normally if you hit a combat, the whole combat is affected. Does that still count with the Beast? Let me just double check. So that is a very, very nasty hurl, as far as I can tell, because the chap here that it ended on was in combat with the Beast, everything in combat with the Beast takes the hit and is knocked prone. The Beast, obviously being a war beast, isn't knocked prone because it's a war beast and they're never allowed to be knocked prone or even back away unless very extreme circumstances. So the Beast takes a strength 3 hit and is not wounded. And then this crossbowman takes a strength 3 hit and dies because he's not got a shield, he's not high enough defense. The Warg Rider is is thrown because he's been dismounted. So that counts as rolling a 1, so he takes a strength 3 hit. So that's 2 strength 3 hits on the Warg Rider. And he is fine. Does his Warg die? Yes, his Warg does die. Unbelievable. We'll just knock him over. We'll go find him a suitable dismount that's suitably different to the Morannon Orcs. And then, obviously, the pikeman is fine, but Ugluk takes a strength 3 hit, and he is fine. But he is knocked prone, which is not good fighting the great beast of Gorgoth there. That was a very unexpected success from the hurl there, and is some nice synergy between the fell beast and the great beast. If someone has overwhelmed it, then you can hurl something into the great beast and scatter them all. That seems very, very nasty. Do comment below if we've done that right. That seems horrific. Yeah, hopefully that's right. It does seem very, very cruel, as that distance is about 10 inches eyeballing it there. That's nasty. Right, let's move on to... Oh, in fact, it was a heroic combat and he killed the chap, so he now gets to move. We'll come back after he has decided where he's going to move. After the Shadow Lord's successful, to say the least, heroic combat, he has moved. He's decided just to go into that Berserker. The pikeman now on the ground, prone, has no control zone, so he was able to charge. The pikeman here, again, has no control zone because he's prone. That's what the green markers are, just in case you're wondering. But the Shadow Lord couldn't quite get through that gap. And this is the Warg Rider. He is the, you might recognise him from other battle reports as Pointy Captain. He is the dismounted Warg Rider. He's suitably different, so we won't get him confused with the Mordor force. But he is stopping the Shadow Lord from getting in on Ugluk. So, again, that is why the Shadow Lord has just gone up here. Now, there is another heroic combat, and that is Lurtz, who is prone on the ground. So we'll just do his quickly. He wins the fight on the 6, which means he can stand, but he is prone, so he's unable to make strikes. So we'll back them away. I'll whip his prone marker off. So he is stood up, but unfortunately can't make strikes, so his heroic move can't go off. So we'll do these fights first. It's a 2-on-1, so the Uruk is going to shield. Oh, and the Uruk loses there. 5 high, doesn't quite get it. The Morannon just needs a 5, no, and then a 6, no. But they do outnumber because there's 9 in the Howdah and they haven't lost any. So that means they reroll 1s to a 6. Oh, it's just nasty for Isengard here. And they lose a warrior there to the re-rolling 1's army bonus. That's brutal there. We then have the Berserker. The Berserker can set the bar on a 2 high. Oh dear me. And he is against 2 and then the Shadow Lord as well. We'll not bother differentiating because if these are all 1s, they don't deserve to win. There we go. So they have won. He's knocked prone. And we'll do the Shadow Lord first because he will strength 6 on defense 5. He will need 4s. He gets a lot there. So we'll say they're cocked, but we'll not re-roll them yet. He's got 3 6-up saves. He does save 1, but 2 go through. So he is very dead. We'll stand those up in a moment. The final combat is then prone Ugluk and an Orc with a pike support against the Great Beast. We'll let the Great Beast set the bar. It gets a 5 high. So that's a 5 high for the Beast. Ugluk is 2 attacks. And then he's got 2 friends. The friends have a big dice here. And they get a 5 to draw the fight. But with Ugluk's superior fight value, even though he's prone, he has won. So that means Ugluk and the Orc can stand. And the pikeman can make a strike. He needs a 6. Oh, not quite. Not quite enough. Even though they've won, they do back away. As we've mentioned, the War Beast never backs away, can never be knocked prone, all of that kind of gubbins. So they back away, but they have been able to stand. So that is quite important for them. That is how the board is looking then at the end of the turn. That was a very, very bloody turn. If we come over here, these are the casualties from the hurl. The Shadow Lord then killed a Berserker as well. He has been an absolute beast this turn. And then this chap died in a fight as well. So that is some serious, serious casualties in just one turn. Let's go into turn 5 priority while we're here. It's a draw. Oh, so this time it goes to Mordor. Oh, we'll come back after some heroic moves have been thought about. This is going to be a bit make or break now for Isengard. With the Isengard force very much on the back foot, they are not far off hitting 50%. Although, of course, they won't break until they've lost 66% because of their army bonus. But the Mordor force have not lost a model. or even suffered a wound on the beast or the fell beast. So Isengard have a lot of work to do now. Lurtz is going to call a heroic move. The Great Beast and the Shadow Lord are going to allow that to happen. They'd rather save their might and allow, hopefully, some failed courage tests from Isengard when they try to charge the beast. This is the board at the end of turn 5 movement. Well worth the forces of Mordor not countering the heroic move from Lurtz, as he rolled a 1 and a 2 for his courage to charge this chap and the beast, and failed. He does have a courage of 5, but he'd have needed to chuck in 3 might and will, and he simply didn't have enough. He's only got 1 might left, and he just couldn't do it. So he stood there, terrified. This chap didn't charge him, he just stayed still, so that Lurtz wasn't able to do anything at all in the combat phase. The rest of the Isengard force were not very brave either. The Orc failed his courage, this chap failed his courage, and this guy failed to charge the Shadow Lord as well. A couple of archers managed to get in, but mainly the forces of Isengard moved across, because in Mordor's move, after the heroic move from Isengard, the objective carrier and his bodyguard are making a break for it. If the game ends when they're in their own side, it's only 3 points, but it's 5 if they are on Isengard's board edge, on their board side. So they would much rather get across. That's why the Warg Rider and the archers are moving to intercept. The lone Uruk from round here has come across, charged, and a pikeman is moving round as well to try and swamp the orcs and start getting some kills. That's how the board is looking. There will be some shooting, so we'll come back with the shoot phase. Shoot phase, and the 3 archers there are going to shoot, or throw a stone anyway, at Lurtz. Hitting on 5s, all miss. Annoyingly, one of them did hit, although he didn't wound a moment ago, but I had to redo that footage as the Shadow Lord, in fact, got clobbered and everything fell apart, and it was all a big nightmare. So we deleted that so that you'd never know, although now you've just found out. The 2 orcs here then are going to shoot into that low defense Uruk there. Oh, 1 hit, 5 to wound. No, just a 1. And that, oh, in fact, 3 archers onto that chap there. Hitting on 5s, no wounds. So that is all of the orcs shooting. Then we have Isengard. This chap here is going to take... Oh, he could go for the objective with 1,000 in the ways. Might be good for a laugh. We'll go for the objective. He hits. Does he hit this chap? No, he goes through. Does he hit... oh, it's going to be going that way, isn't it? So, does it hit the combat with the Shadow Lord? Yes. Friend or foe? Oh, it hits the Uruk and kills him. Oh, that really is the luck that Isengard have had. That even takes the Shadow Lord out of combat, so he's not going to be using any will this turn for combat. That couldn't really have been any worse there for Isengard. But there we go. That's the luck of the draw. Fight phase. We'll start off here as the Shadow Lord is no longer in combat. So it's a pikeman against 2. It goes to the forces of Mordor, and they both need a 5 because the pikeman has no shield, and the pikeman is dead. That is nasty for Isengard. They've lost this shield wall well and truly. Then it's another 2 on 1. Oh, it's a draw. The Black Númenórean does have a fight value of 4 there, so let's see who it goes to. It goes to the Black Númenórean and the Morannon. So he is backed away. Do they kill him? Both needing 5s. No, so he survives there 4 high from the Orc and the Black Númenórean. We'll then do this fight here. It's a 1-on-1. and we're just both going to fight it. Oh, it goes to the Uruk. He only needs a 5 because he's strength 4. Oh, so close. He doesn't get the kill. And he can back away. If he makes way a little bit towards Lurtz, he can easily get away the inch. And the Black Númenórean didn't have to move into base contact with Lurtz because you can't, even when giving way, you can't move into base contact. Then the only other combat is the Great Beast against the Pikeman and Ugluk. Ugluk has fought this beast for many turns and wants to kill. So Ugluk is the smaller green dice, and then the Pikeman, and then it's 3 for the beast. Oh, and the beast has won. Ugluk does have a point of might, so he's going to spend it to win the fight. He's fight 5, so he does win. It's cost him a point of might though, that is nasty. But he is going to be wounding the beast on 5s because he's strength 5. So he's hoping to get a good number of wounds. Oh, and it's the Pikeman that gets the 5. No wounds there. Just not worth the might there to get just a single wound. And they back off because, again, the beast never backs away. Another disappointing turn for Isengard. This is the board at the end of turn 5. Still not a single Mordor warrior has fallen and no wounds on any of their beasts. This is an uphill struggle now for Isengard, although they are starting to surround Mordor, and surely their luck is going to change. Let's roll for turn 6 priority. Oh, and it's a draw again, so this time it swings back to Isengard. Start of turn 6 move, and with Isengard priority, the Great Beast is spending its last point of might for a heroic move. Ugluk is spending his last point of might to counter. Let's roll off to see who goes first. And again, Mordor win the roll off. It is just cruel. The beast will move first. So when the beast pivots, it is able to move its own models out of the way by their shortest distance. So it's going to shimmy him round and then move forward and hit Lurtz. Now, because of the shape of the base, it probably will hit him first. So we'll roll to try and crush him. And he does die. So that, ironically, is the first Mordor casualty from friendly fire. So he is dead, but the beast is on Lurtz. And it is trample attacks on Lurtz. Oh, and that's 2 wounds on Lurtz. Lurtz now down to 1 wound. He's going to save his fate for later, as he's only got 1, so he's guaranteed to take a wound. He's going to save that for later. That was well worth crushing a Black Númenórean. Put my teeth back in, as Lurtz takes 2 wounds. Oh, Isengard have been so unlucky, losing every roll off, and now a nasty trample there from the beast yet again. Let's come back with the rest of Isengard's movement. Isengard's move, we're back very early because they are sort of broken, sort of not. They are below 50%, so they're broken as far as the orcs are concerned. But the Isengard special rule means that the Uruks don't break until 66%. So to keep these 2 orcs in the fight, Ugluk is going to risk it calling a stand fast. So you can take his courage test. 7, that is enough, just even with the -1 from the beast. From the Witch King, rather. So his stand fast has passed. And then he's going to roll his courage to charge the beast. It's another 7, so he just passes. And he has charged into the beast. He didn't call with me because it's Isengard move. And now those orcs are safe. We'll come back with the rest of the movements. This is the board at the end of movement. Lurtz obviously has been charged by the beast, but the beast has then been counter-charged by an amazingly brave orc. Ugluk and a couple of others, but quite a lot failed their courage tests. There's a lot marked off by dice that have failed. This chap failed and has been countercharged. The Uruk here that charged has been countercharged by one. So there's going to be a lot of fights. The Shadow Lord is just doing the end of his movement. He has come in, charged him, and he's going to just chuck one dice into transfixing Lurtz. And it goes off on the 4. Lurtz has no will to resist, so we'll pop that marker onto Lurtz, and he is now transfixed. The archer down here moved half to get a shot, and the objective carrying Black Númenórean managed to hop the fence, and his 2 friends came around the long way just to stand in front and shield him from any potential shots or charges next turn. So with that, we'll go into the shoot phase. And we do have that one shot there. He's moved, so he's hitting on 5s. He's going, obviously, for the guy with the objective. And he hits. Does he go through? Yes. Another 6 will kill him. Oh, not quite. They've got very large shields, these tabletop ramblings shieldmen. So that bounces off, and he's fine. And then we have the orcs in the howdah. We'll do these 3, taking shots into him. That's 2 hits. Killing him on 5s. Oh, not quite. Then we've got these 3 here into the chap down there. But no hits. And that is all of the shots from the howdah. So we'll go into the combat phase. Start the combat phase then, and we'll just start off down here with this 1-on-1. And it goes to Isengard there on the 3. But they do not wound. That orc backs away. We'll then do this 2-on-1. And the Uruk's not going to bother shielding. He needs to get some kills. Oh, 3 high for Mordor. He should have shielded, but again, he needs kills. So one of these will be a 5 from the Morannon, and one of them just nearly knocked over the Shadow Lord, but got away with it. And 1 from the Black Númenórean. So the Black Númenórean on 6s and 5s. Oh, that was a 6, but we just knocked it. And the Morannon there getting the kill. He is dead. The next fight then will be here. It's made quite difficult by the Shadow Lord. I would whip him off his stand, but he does look better if he's on it. So trying to peer around the Shadow Lord, we have this 2-on-1 again. In fact, he can't shield anyway, he's a pikeman, but he wouldn't bother. Oh, and it's a draw on 1s across the board. Where 1, 2 or 3 it's evil, and it is evil. Oh, a 1 rerollable. They both need 5s. No, so that pikeman is fine. And we'll back him away, trying not to knock the Shadow Lord over for the umpteenth time. And that is all of the standard fights. So we'll go to Lurtz, Ugluk and co against the Beast. The Beast will set the bar. It does have the lower fight value, so we'll see what it can do. A 5 high, respectable, but very easily beaten by the Uruks. We'll do Lurtz's 3 attacks. He gets the 5, equals it, and wins the fight. He is transfixed, so he's unable to make strikes, but Ugluk can, needing just 5s with his strength 5. No wounds, and he's out of might. Put him back up. So then there's the orc and the 2 chaps there. They will all need 6s, and that is 1 wound on the beast. 1 wound on the great beast of Gorgoth. It immediately takes a courage test to see if it will stampede. Oh, courage. Easy there, getting a 10. So it's lost a wound, but doesn't stampede. And it has a massive 4 wounds, so it's not all that bothered about losing 1 at this stage in the game. We'll just shimmy these back. But importantly, the beast didn't win and didn't get to make double strikes against Lurtz. And then the final fight is the Shadow Lord against a Warg Rider. It's 3-on-1. And the Warg Rider wins. The Shadow Lord there. 3 high. That is appalling. So he's going to go for the long shot. And is he going to kill the Shadow Lord in 1 strike? 6s by 4s? No, it's a 3. He fails to wound him, but he has survived and he's pushed him back and drained off a will for the Shadow Lord being in combat. Not bad for a plucky little Warg Rider there. Well worth Ugluk risking it all on calling a stand fast that he didn't even need to take just to keep that Warg Rider from running. So that is the end of the turn. It was fairly uneventful, only 1 Uruk dead. So the game will keep going as neither force has hit 25%. So then we roll for turn 7 priority. And it goes to Mordor. With Mordor having priority, Lurtz is going to use his last point of might to call a heroic move. And Mordor are going to allow that to happen. End of the movement phase, and it's gone from bad to worse for Isengard. Lurtz was unable to charge. He rolled a 5, and at courage 5, with no resources to spend, he failed because his courage -1 because of the Shadow Lord. Then Ugluk absolutely bottled it on a 6, but he is courage 4, and again with -1 he failed. But his was a stand fast, not just a charge, because even though the Uruks don't count as broken, he called it to try and keep the Warg Rider and the Orc in the game. So he fails it and flees. Ugluk there on a courage test he didn't even need to take has fled the battlefield. And ironically, this Orc who he was trying to keep in the battle got 10 to stay and an 11 to charge, although the Warg Rider did flee, meaning the objective is now on the home straight to get off the board for max VPs for objectives. So it was worth the gamble there to try and keep the Warg Rider in play, but it has not paid off for Ugluk and Isengard, who now are in a very, very bad position. Into the shoot phase, we do have some shots. This Uruk here is going to shoot at point blank range into the Shadow Lord and miss. And then Lurtz is going to shoot at the chap with the objective. He hits. Does he hit the guy in front? No, he does hit the guy with the objective, but he doesn't kill him. So Lurtz has not been able to take out the objective, although as he's in base contact with a friend, or at least he should be, unless he's being knocked, the objective would have automatically been passed to him anyway. So then, in Mordor shooting, these 3 are going to shoot into Lurtz. 1 hits. Does it wound? No, it doesn't. And then the next shots will be... well, this one chap can shoot into that pikeman and misses, and then nobody else really has any shots. So we'll go into the combat phase. We'll start off with the fight at the back. We have 3-on-1. Ooh, thought that was a 6 then. Never mind, that's just a 4. He has lost. He's trapped, so these are double strikes, and they are 5s. He is very dead there on 2 6s. That is another dead Uruk. They back away because they trapped their opponent, and he is removed as a casualty. We'll then come across here to 3-on-1. The Uruk has no real need to shield at this stage. The quicker they die, the quicker it will be over, and the less likely it is that this chap will run off the board. He loses. The 2 Morannons will be wounding on 5, so we'll roll their double strength first, and they kill him there with the 5. So again, these back away, and the Uruk goes down. The next set of fights then is these 2, and we're going to start off with the Shadow Lord. The Shadow Lord against, in fact, it's Isengard priority, so we will... Oh no, whose priority is it? I have no idea. We'll recheck by looking at the footage. Apologies for that momentary lapse. It is Mordor's priority. Lurtz obviously calling that heroic move. So, just in case the Shadow Lord wins and is able to get his hurl off, the Shadow Lord is going to do his combat first. He's 3 attacks on the charge. He gets it there with the 6, and he's going to hurl him. So we'll hurl D3. So it's a 2 plus the 2 for the strength difference is 4 inches. How far is that going to be? He is going to easily hit that bowman, so it'll hit everything in that combat again. So he is going to hit 1, 2, and then an immovable object. So that's 2 normal hits and then 2 nasty hits, so to speak. And he is dead. So that chap's dead. And then it's strength 3 hits on everything else. So on the pikeman, he's dead. The bowman is dead. And then the orc, who's passed 2 courage tests just to be there, he's also dead. Oh, that is another brutal hurl there, killing 4 with a hurl. Does it wound the beast? Oh, yes, it does. The beast is wounded, down to 2 wounds. We'll do his courage test. Oh dear. He passes that courage test nice and easily. So the beast is fine. That then has taken out the final combat. And that then is the end of the turn. And not just the turn, it's actually the end of the game, as Isengard have just this bowman, a pikeman, and Lurtz left. They went into that not quite at 66% and have ended up quartered and obliterated. The Shadow Lord playing piggy in the middle with the Great Beast and wiping out everything in between, just tipped them over the edge. That was a brutal game, ending there with just 1 Mordor warrior dying, and that was friendly fire. An absolutely ridiculous victory there, and quite unexpected. I did think that Isengard would pull through that and carve through the warriors, especially as there's no heroic strike in the Mordor force. But it definitely wasn't meant to be for Isengard, with some very, very bad luck and with no real counter to those 2 big threats. Counting up the victory points, the forces of Mordor have 5 victory points because they are in possession of the objective and it is in enemy territory. They also gain 2 victory points, 1 rather, for wounding Lurtz, and they get 3 for breaking the enemy and being unbroken themselves, for a 9-0 victory to Mordor. MVP for Isengard is definitely not Lurtz. It's not Ugluk. It is the Great Beast of Gorgoth for the Mordor force, as Isengard themselves got no kills, but the Great Beast managed to trample one of its own warriors in its pursuit of victory. Absolutely nothing that Isengard could do against its fury. Ugluk did manage to put a wound onto the beast, so perhaps he is the real Isengard MVP, but it's very much best of a bad lot for Isengard. For Mordor, MVP is a toss-up between the Great Beast and the Fell Beast. Both absolutely demolished the Isengard force. And perhaps as a duo, they are the MVP, as the two devastating hurls were playing catch between the two, hurling into the Great Beast's fight, doing massive damage and even wiping out the enemy force at the end. That was some very, very nice synergy between those two. And again, hopefully that is how you are meant to do the rules. Please do comment below if you disagree. Please do let me know. So this is the list back in all its glory. 400-point list that has absolutely demolished Isengard. This is perhaps my new favourite list. Sporting their channel shields with the Tabletop Ramblings dice logo there, they have held true and smashed Isengard to pieces. They, as I say, are my new favourite force. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. If you haven't already, please do like the video, do comment, and do support the channel by following and hitting that bell button so that you'll be notified of any future releases. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. First off, we've got these three are going to shoot into Lurtz. Ooh, that's a hit. 6 is to wound. Oh dear. We'll